Hello, this is Andy Doss, and I'm back with a story I think you'll find interesting. Did you know that Tim McGraw has a connection to Henry County, Virginia? Admittedly, it's an indirect connection, but it's still pretty cool. This video isn't all about Tim McGraw, but he has a story in his family history that's worth exploring further, and that's what we're going to do. So sit back and enjoy. I'm excited to share this information with you today on History in Sight. Some years ago, Tim McGraw was featured on the celebrity genealogy show Who Do You Think You Are? And learned something very interesting about one of his ancestors. And because this story has a bit of a tie to Martinsville-Henry County, where the History in Sight team is based, the folks here thought it would be a particularly relevant story to share. In the heart of 18th century Southwest Virginia, amidst a rugged wilderness and an unyielding frontier, many narratives of struggle and resilience unfold. The British Proclamation of 1763 aimed at pacifying Native American tribes and avoiding conflicts, and therefore established a boundary line along the crest of the Appalachian Mountains beyond which colonists were prohibited from settling. However, the proclamation was met with defiance by many settlers who saw the fertile lands beyond the boundary as vital for their livelihoods and aspirations. Among these settlers was a man named Isaac Chrisman and his wife Jane Scott, dyed-in-the-wool pioneers of the unforgiving Southwest Virginia frontier. In 1774, the Chrismans established a fort at Reiko in what would later become Scott County, Virginia. Building forts in frontier regions like Reiko was a strategic necessity, providing crucial protection against potential Native American attacks. These fortified outposts served as refuge during times of danger, enabling settlers to continue their agricultural and community-building endeavors amidst the uncertainties of the frontier. Additionally, forts functioned as centers of commerce, diplomacy, and social interaction, fostering cohesion and resilience among the settlers. The Reiko Fort, though small, offered minimal defense capabilities, with local colonists being able to defend it with their rifles during times of trouble. This was perfect for colonists who normally only worried about their crops and farms and rarely saw Indians. However, aspirations for a new life often clashed with the harsh realities of the frontier, leading to unrest between settlers and Native American tribes. The constant push beyond the proclamation line and the construction of defensive forts exasperated tensions. In the summer of 1776, settlers in Reiko received a warning of an approaching group of Indians and were urged to seek safety at Fort Blackmore, a larger and better defended station. There, they benefited from a well-trained militia for protection. Despite the relative safety of the fort, Indians occasionally lurked in the nearby wooded areas, ready to ambush unsuspecting settlers who ventured out. Settlers understood the risk of leaving the fort's protection and knew they could no longer rely on militia defense once outside its walls. Behind those walls, families faced a real possibility that the Indians may destroy their crops and livestock while they were gone away from home. Despite this danger, Isaac and two of his sons decided to venture back to Reiko to check on their fields after spending some time at Fort Blackmore. Tragically, upon their return to Reiko, the Chrismans encountered a band of Cherokee Indians. Isaac and his sons met their fate at the hands of the Indians, facing what was probably a grim end. Isaac's death left behind his grieving widow Jane and their children, Isaac Jr., Gabriel, Nimrod, and probably a daughter named Catherine. Amidst the chaos and loss, a legacy endures. Gabriel Chrisman, just 8 years old when his father met his fate, would marry, have children, and then after many generations become an ancestor of Tim McGraw. After learning of the fate of his ancestor, McGraw was moved, but also expressed that Isaac had to have been somewhat aware of the dangers and that he had probably weighed the risk and always knew that death was a possibility. Through the lens of his family history, the story of the Chrisman clan intertwines with a broader tale of American perseverance and the complexities of frontier life. So, what does this have to do with Martinsville and Henry County, Virginia, you may ask? Well, the echoes of this terrible event were recorded in at least 2 accounts. One account was documented in a report of a militiaman who had served in the area named Charles Bickley. The other, more detailed record was preserved in the handwritten journal entries of another militiaman named John Redd. Redd wrote the following: Captain Martin with 80 men were ordered to the Reiko Fort about 50 miles from the North Fork of Clinch. The balance of the army were discharged. Captain Martin immediately set out for the Reiko. At this place, a man by the name of Isaac Chrisman had built the fort some time before, and while we were gone to the Indian towns, Chrisman and 2 of his family were murdered by the Indians. As I said earlier, the connection to Henry County is indirect, but still interesting for history buffs in this area. Major John Redd was one of early Henry County's most important figures and is also one of its most overlooked. His biggest contribution was the information he documented in his journal, later called Reminiscences of Western Virginia, documentation that gives historians a unique look into the goings-on of the region of what is now Western Virginia and Eastern Kentucky during 1770 through 1790. Major Redd built his home Bellevue in Henry County in 1783. He was an important figure in the early Henry County court and a well-respected official. At the time of his death in August of 1850, the Daily Richmond Times included the following note. At a court of quarterly sessions for Henry County, at the courthouse on the 12th day of August, Major John Redd, an officer of the Revolution, a member of the legislature of Virginia during the exciting sessions of 98 to 99, and for 55 years an active and efficient member of the court, departed this life. Today, Major Redd has largely been forgotten in his hometown, and even worse, his gravesite has fallen into woeful disrepair. However, his writings are still used by historians all around to help understand and piece together information about things that were happening in Western Virginia and Eastern Kentucky. Published versions of Redd's journal can readily be found from various online sources. And there you have it, threads of history interwoven between Tim McGraw's ancestry, the historical echoes of Martinsville-Henry County, and the frontier spirits of pioneers like Isaac Chrisman and Major John Redd. Before we conclude, there's one more detail worth mentioning. In John Redd's notes, he references a figure named Captain Martin. The gentleman he speaks of would later rise to prominence as General Joseph Martin, the very namesake of the city of Martinsville. Stay tuned for an upcoming video where we look deeper into the remarkable story of General Martin and his legacy. As we forge paths into the stories of those who shaped our future, we are reminded of the importance of preserving our legacies for future generations. And so we invite you to join us on this journey of discovery by subscribing to our channel. We'd certainly appreciate it. And thank you for watching History in Sight.